Okay. Screen recording. Can y'all hear me at all?
Yes, hi.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my camera's fucking with me. Excuse my French. Um, I don't know why. I'm trying to just see why my camera is fucking with me.
That's okay. Take your time. Thank you for
Oh, thank you. Okay, let's see.
taking
Let's see
today.
more. What does this say? No, I don't want
What's
any of
good,
that.
Pippa? All right, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know it is recording right now. Shout out to Brianna for that, for sure. So I'm just letting you know. Uh,
Why can't I see my this other video camera? Please look at the video camera and say, okay, I don't know why my camera is trying to do this to me right now, but can you hear me at least?
yeah, we can hear you.
So for the sake of whatever, I'm going to keep working on this. I don't want to be the one that's, I don't know why. And I took a shower and everything. Mm.
I can see that it's restarting. Did you restart your computer?
Oh, you know what? How about I do that and I come back on? Can I
Mm-hmm.
do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Give me 2 minutes, y'all. I'm sorry, y'all.
No,
Talk
it's all
amongst
good.
yourselves. I'm gonna restart my shit.
Okay, for sure.
Oh my god. Oh, this is embarrassing. This is really bad. What? Okay. Okay. Let me turn this shit off. Okay. Now, now we're gonna come up here. And I can't. Okay. Okay. Lead meeting. Good. Lead meeting.
All right, y'all. We just gonna wait for Pippa to come back. If there's anything like we talked about before, if there's any questions towards the end that you might have for Pippa, definitely feel free to ask. Um, she has definitely been very excited for this interview. So the last time we was actually supposed to go on with Pippa, she was like, I got my hair cut. I was, I have an outfit on, like you feel me? So she's definitely ready to do this interview with us. So but just give it some time. Hold on one second.
Okay. It still won't, you son of. Oh!
Hey, hey, what up, Pippa? What's good?
What the hell? I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. Please
You
forgive me.
good? No,
Totally
it's all
good.
good. It's all good. Welcome to the BLA. You feel me?
Thank y'all so much. Do I need to mute my mic?
No. You good? You good? It's all good. How are you doing first and foremost before we, roll up into this?
I am so thrilled that y'all are having me. Oh my God. Um, before we get really deep, is this an informal meeting where I can just hit my vape pen and carry on and
Do
have
whatever
a
it
cup of
is that you need
tea?
to do. Do whatever it
Okay,
is that you need to
That's
do.
beautiful.
I'm fabulous. I don't even know how to respond to you giving me your time. I don't see it as me giving I'm so thrilled just to even have this time with y'all. And I prayed and said, just let me be quiet and listen and um, be the best me I can be and the most truthful me. And I'm fabulous.
Hey, hey, that's all I'm wanting. That's all I'm here for, yo. Be fabulous, be great. It's really good to have you. I feel like even though we connected last year, I just feel like I've been knowing you for a while now. You know what I mean? Like we just reconnected. Like we all just, and you know what I'm saying? Like we all just reestablishing our relationship from like many past lives. So it's really good to see you and like be with you, connect with you, and things like that. So
Absolutely. And y'all
yeah.
look fabulous. I'm overwhelmed and thrilled at your beauty and thank you. I'm going to try not to cry or have too many hot flashes.
You good, Pippa. All right, well, first and foremost, I would like everybody to introduce themselves, the BLA Council, who you are and what position that you hold. If you're not able to speak, that's perfectly fine. But for everybody who can definitely speak, if you can introduce yourselves to Pippa, I'll go first. My name is Crew. I'm the founder, and also the lead archivist of the Black Lesbian Archives. And yeah, we got Pippa in the building, you know what I'm saying, and the VLA Council in the building. So if everybody can introduce themselves to our audience and also Pippa, I would definitely appreciate that.
Thank
I
you.
can go ahead. Hi, Pippa. It's an honor to meet you. I'm Taylor, and I'm the committee head.
It's an honor to meet you.
Hello, my name is Prissa. I am the scribe.
Ooh, the hard job. The job nobody wants.
Hi, my name's Alex. I'm in DC. I'm one of the archivists.
Right on, DC. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to just hold my breath there.
Oh my bad. We have Brianna on the call as well. Brianna won't be able to speak right now, but Brianna is also one of our archivists. And I think I saw Christiana on the call too.
Hi,
She was
Brianna. Hi, Christy.
Christiana checked out for a second, but she's actually one of our volunteers. So she'll
Right
probably
on.
pop back in, yeah, during that too. So yes, we had a council, you know what I'm saying? It all came down, all went down last year. Pretty excited about that. As we're gearing up for our first exhibit of the year, February 20th through March 28th. Exploring the her story of Ashe as well as how we're building community, especially like you told me, I think it was yesterday, but just it's really an incredible time right now, how everything is like
Oh,
aligning
shit.
up. You know what I mean? It's incredible. But before we do get into the interview, I want everybody to know as a disclaimer, all viewpoints from anybody from the council, to Pippa, Ashe, whatever, these are our own viewpoints. So I just want to kind of put that out there beforehand. This is actually a conversation not only to discuss and actually get to know each other, but it's a conversation for us to be able to really educate, and preserve our histories and who we are. So I just ask that everybody who's going to be listening to this or is listening to this right now, just to keep an open mind. Allow yourself to be open. You feel me? I'm not going to get into a meditation or nothing like that, but just allow your heart to be open. And yeah, right. And we're gonna get this thing cracking. But before we do start, is there any questions anybody have? Pippa, do you have any questions? Anything? that we get
Just
into?
I'm on no schedule. I'm on your energetic flow. So
Okay.
whenever you call it, if you know, I might need to go pee pee and have a hot flash. That's it. That's
All
it.
right, cool. All right, y'all. Well, if y'all have any questions on the in between or just want to pause or anything like that, let us know. And we can go from there. We can kind of move in from there. This and also before I start too, this is totally unfiltered. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is very honestly. I like to think of these interviews and any interviews that I do is kind of like we sit on the couch and just having a conversation. So, also keeping that in mind as well. But
Excellent.
shoot, let's get into it. We got Pippa in the building. Ashe. Like, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your upbringing. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like, where
my
you
God.
from? Just a little bit about you. You know what I mean? Background, your backstory, Pippa.
I was born in Chicago.
Oh,
Both my
zodiac sign too. Your zodiac.
Scorpio. I just turned 57 in November.
Yes.
All of my siblings and I were born in Chicago. We're part of that great migration of Black folks who went from the South, and we went to LA. You know, my people were part of that migration. Both my parents were born in Kentucky during segregation. My mother had to be born on a sun porch because her preacher grandfather, my grandfather who was in the military, refused to have her be born in a basement in the dark in a segregated hospital. Um, let's see. A very distinguished life in terms of my father was a militant, radical, um, educated, distinguishing fellow. And my mother was a bougie, dark-skinned preacher's girl who pretty much married my dad to leave, like a lot of women of that age did. My mother just turned 89 January 3rd. So a lot of women at that time, you know, married to whatever. So I grew up very interesting. My parents split under very violent circumstances. My father kidnapped us at gunpoint and threatened my mother when she confronted him with an affair. So I know about being on the run and running at a very young age. So when my parents split, my mother took us to Massachusetts where an aunt lived because she could find a job there. She couldn't find a job teaching in Chicago or St. Louis the way she wanted to. And during that time in the early 60s, shit was very hot all over the states. So she went to where she had family, she could make a living, she could keep after her children. But what they did was I grew up with white people. And when I tell you I grew up with white people, I mean, we were the only black family at a Protestant congregational church. Now the schools, busing, okay, but I moved there in 68. I was 5 years old. So busing, we were the busing kids. We were that grand experiment on busing in the 60s. So my school environment was multicultural because they were literally busing kids. My schools were, busing kids. But my private and home life, I grew up around Jews, Italians. I grew up very privileged. I grew up with a swimming pool and tennis courts in those modern suburban communities when they were first popping up in the 70s and it was the thing. Well, hindsight is 2020. My mother was a single black woman. Uh, uh, Black women of that age did not consult their children about their feelings and how do you feel about us moving in this Oreo cookie life I'm about to put you in. Um, so we bore the brunt of that, living with white people, learning a lot, dealing with racism in this late 60s and 70s, coming of age as a black girl with these several different things going on. Meanwhile, I go visit my dad, who was gangster, living between DC and Atlanta. He went to Haiti every year, Africa. He was, would always send me things from around the globe. He was a photographer. He was also he worked in planning. He's one of the first black brothers to work in urban planning and renewal. His last project before he died was Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. So life with dad was black, black, black. Finally, I got sick of my mom. We did not get along. I was a tomboy. I looked just like my father. It just wasn't going well. So I wrote my dad a letter. He named me. I looked just like him. I was very attached to my father. So I asked him if I could live with him. I secretly wrote him a letter, and he wrote me back, and he said I could live with him. So I moved to Atlanta in 9th grade. I went from an all kind of white Oreo cookie kind of exposure and bourgeoisie shit to Atlanta. Literally, my life changed overnight. So I had to negotiate things I didn't know. I mean, I literally went from all white school to Lakeshore High School. I grew up in College Park. I went to Lakeshore High School. And luckily for me, I was athletic and I could fight and I could handle the pressure of being different. But I was confronted with, it didn't matter whether I lived with white folks, I'm nigga all day. When I was with black folks, I was an Oreo cookie. I was very misunderstood, but I had my crew. I had my crew because I was in drama and dancers. So, you always have the nerdy little artistic black kids. So I had my nerdy little artistic black kid friends that I hung out with. So I had this kind of like juxtaposed northern life, southern life, and midwestern life. So I say all kinds of weird terminologies. People are like, where you from? I said, well, so I literally grew up in St. Louis, Massachusetts, and Atlanta.
So, from those places that you grew up, how did you get to Oakland? Like, what time did you get to Oakland? Like, what was the transition from you growing up where you was at and moving to that location and like being basically blown out? You feel me? Into this whole new world. Talk to us
Turn
about that.
up.
Turn.
So I always wanted to be a filmmaker, and I started working in television at a very young age. In Massachusetts during the 70s, to quell all that Negro uprising, all those people of color uprising, it's going to happen again, mark my words. The government was filling shit. They was giving money to schools left, right, and center, and this. So I started interning in television at a very young age. My grades were so poor uh, because of sexual assault from my father. I barely graduated. So instead of getting to go to UCLA or NYU or the schools I wanted to go to, I joined the military and was a media specialist in the Army. I was engaged to be married to a white man when I was in the military. And that's why I got turned out, was in the military. And I cheated on my fiance, and I came out literally in an orgy of women. This lieutenant invited us. I was at a SAC base, which is an international base. So there's all soldiers from around the world at Lowry Air Force Base in Colorado. They had their eye on me. I didn't know what was going on. Well, hindsight is 2020, ain't it? They was setting me up. You want to come to a party?
Wow.
Sure. It was all women. Leave your fiance. Okay, cool. I'll just go out with y'all. I walk in there and I go, it took me about a few minutes. And I go, there are no men here. It was all women, a sea of women. Next thing you know, there's a beer in my hand. Next thing you know, I'm being touted around from room to room. Next thing you know, smoking. Next thing you know, I would say in about an hour and a half later, there are two breasts in my mouth. And a woman is straddling me, sitting on my lap. And I got two titties in my mouth. And I literally remember going, oh, well. So Got kicked out of the military. Long story. They asked and told. I was arrested by military police, locked up, everything, whatnot. So when I get kicked out of the military, I moved to Massachusetts, back home. It was the epicenter. This is like the '80s. So I got kicked out in '84. Well, that's where all the great like women of color educators were all in New York, D.C., Connecticut. They were teaching at Hunter College. It was this hella like tight ring in that thing right there. So I went to UMass and I was an African Studies major and a dance major. I studied dance, African Studies, and film. My primary goal was to be an Alvin Ailey dancer. My mother's a modern dancer, but I realized I can't count and a bitch ain't that flexible. No, no, no. So dance is always my passion. It's one of my first things. I realized you're not going to Alvin Ailey. Then my dance teacher, Joy Gresham, introduced me to Audre Lorde's book, Sister Outsider. Our first dance assignment was she handed out articles of Eye to Eye and said, I had two dance teachers, Pearl Primus, she's the first African American to get a PhD in dance, and then my teacher, Joy. Pearl was, I'm a whip your ass, no pain, no gain. Joy was very fluffy and considered avant-garde. Where Joy is the teacher that introduced us to Audre Lorde and gave us this article before we even danced. And it was, I studied African studies, so it was primarily, I'm going to say 90% Black women in that dance class. And she said, before we dance, I want you to read this article and we're going to go inward and we're going to explore our relationships with Black women, ourselves, the judge and jury inside of us. And this is this amazing Black lesbian named Audre Lorde. Read this and you had to come back with your assignment, blah, 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 blah. At the time of receiving this book, I was with a white woman. The only women I had been with since I'd come out was white women. So I feel like I came out in like 84, so around 84, yeah, it was all white girls. I gotta be honest. And then Audre Lorde came to Smith College for a talk. And I went with my white girlfriend who told me, don't you worry about the white, oh baby, Audre Lorde's gonna be at Smith College. I think you should go. Typical. Okay, whatever. I go. It was packed. So I feel like this was, if Ashe started in 89, this has to be around 86. Audrey drew crowds. It was just a sea of lesbians and liberal white people, but mostly women, because back then it was like Dyke City up there. Audre Lorde cusses out the crowd pretty much, talking about why these white institutions, how are you accessing women of color in this $5 system, bland bastardom, this and that. And then she said to you, women of color in the audience, what are you doing? I'm like, oh. Then I was petrified to meet her, but I stood in line, all the white girls, I let all the white girls go first. And I stood in front of her and Audrey grabbed my hand, put her hands around my hands, looked at me dead in my eye and said, it's okay for you to be with Black women. I was like, first of all, how did she know I'm with white women? Of course she could tell an Oreo cookie. Come on now, you could tell, anyway, come on now. And then she told me, you need to be with Black women and you need to create a women of color support group. Well, about maybe less than a month, I created a women of color support group. And I took Audrey's advice. And at that time, Audrey had a white lover. She said, do not allow white women to come. It's a space that women of color should have. I think they could do without being, And there were probably about, I want to say, maybe 13 of us, Latinas, Asian, African Americans, and We all, except one, Tanya, I love Tanya and Marta. Tanya and Marta, they were a couple. All of us had white girlfriends. All of us. And when we made that space for ourselves, Northampton blew the fuck up. Okay? Who are you? What is going on? Audrey came to town, support group. I had it at my art loft. It was badass, food and shit. All the my white girlfriend knew better. She knew you better sit, But you had women who we got in fights with because their white girls couldn't come. Some women refused to join because we wouldn't let their white girls. We spent time speaking about that, and then we just shelved the shit. And then around the late 80s, I'm still in school. There's this reverberation among those of us that are East Coast connected that there's some uh, badass shit going on in the West Coast. It is sunny. It's the place to be. It is where the black, colored shit is popping off. The city by the bay of the arts. It was just like so much shit was going on here. Um, oh my God. I went to the club after one of the Women of Color meetings. Spring was his lock sister from Bedford-Stuyvesant. She went to Swarthmore. We worked at the same job. I worked in mental health. Oh my God. We went to the club. Next thing you know, yes, I did cheat on my white girlfriend, and so did she. We became a couple that night, got kicked out of both of our houses. Our good friend let us stay in her therapist's office, and within 1 week, we said we're moving to California. I looked up lesbian connection because that's the big fucking thing, how we connected back then. We didn't have all that fancy shit. And Toby L'Oreal was the one black lesbian in that magazine. She was also in Yoruba, which I didn't know at the time. I was going to completely immerse myself in that. And she was like, come on, yeah. We talked for like 3 hours. She was like, my home, I'm going to hook you up with this person, that person, this person. You come here, you will woo. And literally, Spring had a Toyota Tercel. We packed that bitch up. We made it like a vacation. We went from East Coast, DC, down and crossed over. Went to tracks in DC. Went to Albuquerque, skipped Chicago. Then went down south. Went to the Catch down south because Spring had family down south. Then hit Oakland. I met Lisbeth I kept hearing, because I was a tennis player. People kept telling me about this. Do you know Lisbeth? Do you know Lisbeth? I'm like, nope. They're like, you need to know her. She's mixed, bit of an Oreo cookie herself. We did all those Oreo cookie things. Playing tennis back in the 70s was not cute, okay? And we were good tennis players, ranked tennis players. Nope, never met Lisbeth. No, gotta meet her. No, one day I'm driving by the tennis courts and I see this tall, fine, light-skinned sister bamming backhands against the wall. And I pulled my car over and I just observed, because for me, as a black athlete and a woman playing tennis in the 70s, to see black women playing tennis and was a huge deal. So the park is also San Pablo Park, a very well-known black tennis park. I jump off the car and go, I gotta be honest, I haven't seen no sister with no strokes like that. You wanna play? She goes, yeah, you play? I go, yeah. I go, what's your name? She goes, Lisbeth. She goes, what's your name? And we go, oh my God, you're the one everybody says we got to meet. It was on and cracking from that day. We were attached at the hip from that day forth.
And this is the story. Yep. This is the story of Ashe right here. Off of it was the synergy of everybody like, y'all need to meet, y'all need to meet, y'all need to meet. And then the one thing that you really hold dear to yourself with the tennis, it was like, this is our connection to each other. And not only this is our connection to each other, but it birthed something that's so incredible.
It was truly our connection. It was truly our connection because we had both kind of given up to be a Black female athlete of that skill level, and to not get the attention that both of us deserved as athletes and as whatever. So we bonded around that. We played a lot. Oh my God, we just, Lisbeth likes to drive. I like to ride. We would just drive and smoke, play tennis, talk a lot. Also, I'm a singer. Lisbeth is a very accomplished pianist and percussionist. So I came with radio skills from the military. So I was a DJ. I learned, by the time I left the military, I had at least 10 years under my belt before I even joined. So Lisbeth had this badass fucking Victorian crib in San Francisco on Cap Street. And if y'all even know the city, those Victorians that you see that are very much Lisbeth's house was popping. Lisbeth loved to cook. I loved to cook. We were literally like soulmates. I was in love. Oh, the other thing. So I fell in love with Lisbeth. And I was with a woman at the time, and Lisbeth pretty much just treated me like her little baby sister. Oh, isn't that cute? I love you too, but you ain't never getting none of this. First of all, it ain't happening. And okay. But I loved Lisbeth to death. We were very attracted to each other. People would see us together. We were just a pair. Just energetically. She Pisces, I'm Scorpio. And those meetings at the house, those dinner parties, those smoking sessions, those creative times, there'd be times literally where we would just have parties, musician parties, and I'm talking badass musicians. Okay? If you want to go to my YouTube channel, you can go see a couple of videos. I'm talking about that level of musicianship these women were, because there was also a very vibrant women's music scene, just period at that time, period. Olivia Records, who's now Olivia Cruises, used to be a record label. There were several record labels and press companies at that time pressing and doing their own stuff. So Lisbeth had a real estate company that produced a magazine. And because of that, she had a printing press. And in the old days, she had to typeset that shit and whatever. She had a printing press. Press is power. Okay. So Lisbeth's into media archiving. I'm into media archiving. We were young, full of energy, and we'd start saying like, okay, it's really cute that Bob and Jane got all they shit, the Bay Area Porter, all the publications that were there, and in spite of the collection of Black people here in the Bay Area during that time, we had HIV and AIDS was the crack epidemic, the OPD was, this is the 80s we're talking about here. And shit was, as much as it was blossoming and beautiful, it was also very hard for Black folks everywhere in the 80s. Was that Reagan era? What do you call that? I forget. So, yada, yada. Elizabeth and I started just talking about this stuff. Well, how can we honor ourselves? We're musicians. We have our own businesses. We should start promoting our own concerts. Like Lisbeth, if you watch Lisbeth talk, she does this a lot. We need to centralize everything. We just need one hub where everybody could come together and we could, and we were also radical, I'm a very radical person, and I was like, we need to honor ourselves. Why do we need to look at them? And that was the whole tenor going on in debate with people of color. There were so many different publications, Latinx, Filipinos. It was just the way it was. It wasn't an anomaly. It wasn't, you know, but at the same time, it was very oppressive here. Um, uh, you know where we are in California. So we thought, well, let's do a calendar of events where people can know what's on television, who's coming to town, who's having concerts, who's looking for roommates. Let's do a little calendar. Well, that just turned into because I get an idea, Elizabeth gets an idea, it's crazy. And Ashe was born. We named it Ashe because at that time I was baptized. I was baptized in the Yoruba tradition in 1988. And we brainstormed a lot on the name and whatnot. And I said, well, what about Ashe? Ashe is African. We were very clear. I said, shit got to be African. I wanted it because I'm very African. I came born knowing I'm African. That's just the way my karma is. And that I have a very ancient knowing of my previous lives. So I was like, this shit gotta be African. It's gotta be hard. It's gotta be no doubt that this is what this is. That we had a Pan-African perspective. We didn't see it. We just, Lisbeth's mixed. Her mom's from fucking North. Anyway, God rest her soul. So Lisbeth had lived in Ireland. I mean, she's just, so we were like, we want it to be global. And we want this motherfucker to reach. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We did it. Oh my God. Back then, you had to Lisbeth would have to typeset, put the fucking typeset in. It was grueling work. Ashe would be a nip of the cost to produce now versus what it was. It was incredibly expensive to produce.
And I want to ask you, Pippa, I want to ask you, what is Ashe? What did Ashe mean to you? Why specifically did you choose, or did y'all come up with Ashe as the
I
name?
chose Ashe because it was Yoruba and because Ashe is a force of nature. Ashe is a force. It's sort of like the force be with you. You can bless the fuck out of someone with that Ashe, or you can fuck somebody up with some Ashe. Ashe is an energy, potential energy for you to do what with. And so for me, naming it Ashe was about giving our Ashe and the multiplied mathematics of Black lesbians coming together globally. What kind of Ashe would that create? What sort of Odu, Ashe energy? Because we literally said, we're going to do this. We are going to elevate our presence, our culture, our views, our relationships, boldly. But we also see another motherfucking key thing, and I really wish people, because Ashe was very clear that we wanted to collaborate, associate, and saw ourselves as a larger people of color movement. That it was important for us to have relationships with people of color, not just lesbians, but yes, specifically lesbians of color. But that net was cast wide. That this work, yes, we're centralizing ourselves, because that's me and that was us, but that vision was global and it was a people of color vision. And sometimes I pick up, we clearly name that. If you read the thing, it's not a secret. There were literally, we would have to disguise the magazine because that magazine went to South Africa. We had a specific request for how do you want this sent to you? There were people whose lives were literally in danger if they were caught with that magazine. Okay. And so we had to think of all these things because we wanted to be global. And then we just were like, what would make, for me, I don't like to speak for people like Lisbeth. I like her to tell her own story. But I really remember it just being like, we can do this and it must be done. And I remember being supercharged by women like Audrey. Audrey Lorde wrote us our first check for Ashe Magazine. And Spin and I were literally in my thing. No, you call her. I'll call her. You go, Pippa. You're the bold one. You was very shy, techie behind the scenes, and I was the community one. We literally, Lisbeth's. She don't fuck with people too much. We can get her, But so I was okay. I called Audrey. She was so loving and receptive. And the thing that stuck with me the most and the promise I made, she said, Pippa, if I can just influence the life of just one Black lesbian before I die, then I will have done my life's work. And I was like, okay, that is going to be my life's work. And I center my work around Audrey Lorde's Eye to Eye, as well as Ashe centered, if you've noticed its work around Eye to Eye. We talk about subjects that literally, I'm stunned. You can pick up any Ashe from the day it was woke to the woke, and it's as relevant today as it was then. That, unfortunately, that's fucking me up, because that's what my young 20s vision. That's not how I thought it was gonna work out. Okay. And that's painful. It's relevant to me. It's very painful to me, actually. But that was the intention, was to change the status of the Black lesbian globally.
And how, when we talk about that connection that you had to Audrey before meeting her, you know what I mean? And that connection that she created, that y'all created, from Oakland all the way to Germany. Could you kind of talk about what that was like? And it wasn't just in Germany. This actually, what we talking about globally, this expanded like when we talk about Aisha, y'all blew the shit up. Y'all blew it all the way up. So could you talk a little bit about that, Pippa, as well?
I'm gonna pretty much say the activists, the females of the 70s and the 80s who were considered the academic intelligentsia, whether it's Gloria Anzaldúa, Shari Moraga, Angela Davis, Audrey, all that intelligentsia, and those feminists and those always cited the need of a global feminist movement. And always centered that it was important. To this day, if you hear Angela or any of these people, this is a global thing. So that's how I was educated, that feminism was global, that although I am an African American woman, there's a diaspora. And I further learned that when I moved to London. So the call at that time was for international organizing. Audrey went everywhere. If you look at Russia, Israel, that's what those women were doing. Look at Angela Davis's itinerary. Just what they were doing, what they were trying to do, what they were teaching in their classes, what they were promoting was in education, our economics, and our stability and healing from patriarchy. So at the time that I stepped into this work as a young 20-some-year-old, the mindset was already global. It wasn't, oh, maybe we should include them. That was what feminists thought was teaching you at that time. And that the personal was political, that we must support each other. We must create an economic, international thing, an educational thing. So that's what the work was. I don't feel like I feel like the women of that time, that was their mission, and Audrey was not alone in that. Now, what happened? Why I wasn't involved as much in the German stuff is I was literally when when the German so there was what do you call it, an entourage of Black German women that came to the Bay. Um, Lord Jesus. I luckily was not involved in any of that drama. I didn't wreck anybody's home. I didn't sleep with none of them girls. None of them. Right? But let me tell you, when them German girls came here, it was on. It was on. Ashe was going at that time. The magazine was flowing. The nonprofit was going. Things were really evolving. But what happened to me was I fell in love with Olubumi, a Yoruba girl, and I moved to London. So I left Ashe. That's not the only reason, but and said, well, I'm going to dedicate my Ashe work to Europe. So I started organizing the Afro-Caribbean and the African women in London. I lived in Brixton at the time. When I moved to London, I feel like that, when was that? I visited in '89 and moved in, whatever. I can't remember all those details. And so I would conduct interviews with women. So there was an international connection that Ashe had with London. There was also folks going back and forth. There were many conferences. I went to the first International Gay and Lesbian People of Color Conference, ILPOC, that happened in, it was North London, maybe? The LA contingency was really strong. There was just the pool, I'm just calling it the pool of blackness. Was just so, everybody had their niche, and then we came together. And the term I would love to see is bring back Black folks are you family? Are you family? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I wanted to reminisce about that. So that's how the internet, Lisbeth, you had, I'm jumping around, but I'm going to answer your question. So there was an outreach team that Ashe created. I believe Sky was head of outreach, and they literally went into communities and literally forged those relationships internationally. So they were forged in the bedroom, they were forged in the office, they were forged on the streets, they were consciously forged. Lisbeth can speak more to the German. I can speak to the British. I can speak for the Black Brit.
No, I feel that. I think Alexandra had a question. Did you want to go ahead and ask?
I do, yeah, thanks. You mentioned the Bay Area is sort of like an epicenter of Black gay life. Did that disperse because of gentrification, or sort of what happened to it? And is there a modern equivalent anywhere of sort of modern day, like where Black gay life is sort of specifically lesbian conglomerated?
You know, with Black folks in general, it's never just one thing. It was many layers of things. The AIDS epidemic just really, I was a social worker during that time. I worked in the Tenderloin. So you had the AIDS epidemic, the crack epidemic, incredible poverty, gentrification, because the dot-coms, as my dad would say as a planner, that plan's been 40 years in the making. So they were gentrifying the Fillmore, kicking people out. So those 80s and all that was the disenfranchisement, the letting of things go, the censorship, the brutality, paving the way for what we call Silicon Valley now.
And can you talk a bit about what AIDS meant specifically for Black lesbians? I feel like typically it's like either gay men and trans community that are centered, but I rarely hear about what AIDS meant for the lesbian community. Black lesbian.
As usual, we tend to not hear about the efforts of women and Black women, when we tend to be the backbone of a lot of movements and things and how we hold things up. Who else did all of the population. I worked at the Tenderloin AIDS Resource Center. My clients covered lesbians, gays, transgender, intersex folks, youth, but whatever you were during that time. I would work and there would be 40 people die in a week at that point. So Black lesbians had to step up, right? A lot of us were social workers. A lot of us do what we always do as Black women. The racism, thank God, I always say to people, thank God the HIV and AIDS epidemic did not happen when COVID did. Because they'd be lynching motherfuckers left, right, and center. Okay, they were penning people up back then. People don't even know what it meant to live in that time. So it would be like if HIV and AIDS had social media platforms like COVID has today. Okay, people had no idea how it spread. People were dropping like flies. Black folks, nobody give a shit about Black people. Nobody gave a shat about Black people. So what were Black lesbians doing? Providing services, doing needle exchange on the streets, wiping up blood, picking up bodies. I have clients come in who had been doing work to survive on the street, whether they be trans women, men come in raped twice in a night. How do you get raped twice in a night in San? We have always been there, and it's just a distortion of history. It's just what happens. I think it's kind of prevalent just in society in general, where we don't know whence we come. Our education about our own story is very limited, and so these are all the things that contribute. But I became a social worker when I came out of the military. My first job was I worked at a behavior modification treatment center in Northampton. Who else is going to take our Black folks in when we're dying? Folks wouldn't touch us. If you've seen what's happening with COVID now, right? The disparities with COVID, the same thing. Do you know we're still in a state of emergency in the United States of America where HIV and AIDS is concerned? An incredible state of emergency. So that we're talking 80s there. Where are we here? 2020 here. What are Black women, lesbians? What's our community doing for itself? Fending for itself. Not as well as we should be, but that's what we've always had to do. It doesn't matter how I identify, my race, my sex, it just puts me in we all know sitting here, no matter how we come to our awareness about being Black in America. You have to have some sort of awareness of what that means. And you also have the lived experience of what it means. So the lived experience back then for us as lesbians was we had to support everybody. I was a social worker then, literally handing out the same thing now. Oh, you handing out medications for this, and you're experimenting on us with this, and you fucking with us for this, and you want us to try this drug for this. The disparities are the same. We're dying. Folks, back then they didn't know. And so because sexually transmitted disease, bloodborne disease, people were frightened to death. They didn't know. Can I get you kissing it? Can I get you what? And so I was a social worker then. I was teaching people who were earning their living doing sex work how to secretly put on a dildo while you're giving a blowjob. I mean, hands-on work with safe sex, handing out needles, teaching people, doing ad campaigns. I just literally went through all my shit again in storage and found these huge bus shelter posters from the AIDS Project of the San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury Clinic, and I worked for Tenderloin AIDS Resource as a media specialist as well as a field person, and we did this huge campaign targeted towards homeless youth, transgender, we didn't do transgender men back then, transgender women, people who were injection drug users, and gay men. Because back then, lesbians the infection rates were lower, and folks weren't telling you their sexual habits back then. Folks are a lot more freer to tell you what they really be doing. So back then you had lesbians, bisexuals, and queer women who were having sex with men and weren't telling you what they were doing. Or who, because we don't do those things, yes, we do. And so it was all about, there was also a new movement in that time among Black folks to get us to talk about sex and relationships in ways we weren't talking about it. Because I don't know if y'all know about that whole DL culture, the down low culture that was very huge during this epidemic. All the challenges Black folks were going through around how are we going to talk about sex? Because if you didn't talk about sex, you're going to die. If you don't, I hope that answers your question.
Did anybody else have any questions?
I have two questions actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pippa, in 2019, January, you had an interview on KPFA Radio's New Magazine with Len Keller. The two of you talked about the character assassination of what it means to be lesbian. I'd love to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on that, especially how it pertains to today, since a lot of people who might have been identified as lesbian, Black lesbian back then, are identifying differently now.
That's crazy. That was actually going to be my next question too. That was a really, really good interview, by the way, Pippa. And I sent it to everybody because I'm like, y'all got to listen to this.
I haven't heard that thing in so long. Okay, yeah. I'm going to have a hit and sip my thing. And please keep me on track. So say that again. What of the lesbian, the way you framed that, you said
Well, you two agreed, I think it was in Len Keller's wording, that there was a character assassination.
Oh, I love that so Lynn. And that's so Lynn. First, I would like to, and I hope not to bust up in tears. Len Keller and I will often, you're going to hear the theme of weed a lot. Len loved house music and smoking, and that would be something we would do. I've worked with Len since I came to this town on so many projects I can't even begin, whether it's film, whatnot. I think I want to frame it in how the character assassination of the Black woman who loves women, and I'm going to clarify that since we're talking about lesbian, is female on female. I think that's what you're addressing, the character assassination of those of us who say. So you could call it lollipop for all I care. So what I would like to say is that since the Black woman has been torn from her homeland and displaced all over the land, her character has been assassinated, whether it's through colonization, imperialization, sexism, patriarchy. Since I'm going to mark that time, but I have bigger timelines, and then carry us forward to the life of the Black American woman. I'll mark it from Reconstruction. I'll just speak that way on. And I'm going to open it up and say, well, when was the Black character not assassinated since we've been here? So that's my big question. It's just that through each generation and iteration and time, what is the character as a character? Lynn, I can hear her laughing at me. Nigga, you can't say that right, can you? No, I can't. Character assassination. Okay. What does it look like? What did it start looking like when it started happening? What does it look like 2020? So, what I feel personally, and I've talked about it with Lynn a lot, I never, ever thought that I would have to apologize or even think, because a bitch, you ain't never gonna get me apologize for liking pussy, okay? I never thought that me saying that I love the smell of pussy, the blood of a woman, whether the pussy bleeds or not, or like me, I don't bleed, my pussy dried up and I got hot flashes, okay? But for me, to have that such a trajectory of my life, to be so involved in community, to have had so many incredible global experiences with Black lesbians, to be 57 years old, and if you'd have told me that I would have to fight with my own people within the LGBTQXXI community, if you'd have told me that I'd have to fight with straight Black folks around being a woman who presents the way I do, if you'd have told me that the vitriol with the social media and that addition, because I have a lovely experience of remembering when, okay, it was nothing, and then there was that cute little pager, and then just the graduations of the technology. So I really love that I went from none of that to wow, to seeing that trajectory. So, and how those platforms are used to erase history, create new history, create your own little, it's such a powerful medium. So that power of those forces, as well as I think the current temperature just around womanism period is what era are you taking? Uh, how dare you get to say what you like? Uh, how dare you love who you love? And this is coming from within. I think that's the most shocking thing as a woman who considers herself an activist, who has gone to jail for people and children and been on the front line for my community. I tell people, oh, you can see Old Guard and Wakanda and see these fantasy warrior women, but when you meet the real motherfucker, you like, who the hell are you? So I feel like it's a fictionalized feminism and Africanism, and for me, I really have an Afrocentric way that I live my life. I know I'm Black American, it's and woo, but I've always kind of had this African perspective, living in England, being with African women, knowing the different cultures, knowing our fight. I know I'm rambling a bit because I'm sure we'll expound more, but the character assassination, it's literally, I feel like people just, go ahead, because I see you got more to go than I do. Shit. It's a
Or
great
or
question.
or I want to say too, to add to that Taylor said, it was like the importance of naming lesbian identity. And this is no shade to the queer community at all, but a lot of people would rather identify, even if they might be Black lesbian, as queer instead of a Black lesbian. And there's nothing wrong with even identifying as
Yeah,
both, because whatever you
yeah,
identify is how you
yeah.
identify.
I
But
think
one
what,
thing you also
yeah.
said in that interview, I don't know, I think you said it, and then Lynn kind of confirmed it. If you don't know where you've been, then how do you know where you're going? And so I guess, attesting to those roots, you know what I mean, and kind of
Yeah,
talking about that.
yeah. That's an African proverb as old as dinosaurs. But what I wanted to say, because we often don't get this opportunity, is that as long as I've been out, there's always been issues within, as my experience, all communities, particularly people of color communities, about using the term lesbian. Okay? When I was around, it was like, that's some white shit. Ain't no Greek fucking Sappho shit. We some Dahomey, lesbian. So it's like, um, we knew didn't get with that term. There's plenty of friends that I have who I don't call myself lesbian. I don't use that white term. I don't like that fucking term, and I'm not from South. Seriously. So I want people to know that this has always been an issue, what we call ourselves, what we name ourselves, how we attach ourselves to these things. So I wish we could just get that clear. Okay, I can literally put friends right here who go, I never called myself a lesbian. I never liked that term. I never called myself. Women, that's when you started making, I'm a womanist. People started spelling shit differently and calling themselves. And we said, well, we're not going to say that. Black folks was like, well, we're going to say, are you family? That way it's inclusive. Uh, okay, you don't have to say that weird Greek thing if you don't want to. So there's always been that. I really want to demystify that motherfucker right there. I think what makes lesbian, okay, we could call it iketu. I'm now gonna call lesbian iketu. Okay, the city in Nigeria. Okay, iketu. No matter what you call it, it is the knowing behind what you saying that causes disruption. I could call myself fan. Book. This is a badass calendar, by the way. Book. It doesn't take away the fact that there's still people who eat pussy morning, noon, and night. They like it. They like the female physique. They like the smell. They like the shape. They like it. They know what it is. So whatever you want to call that, if you do it part-time, full-time, once every 20 years, once every fucker what? That's what you do. Last time I slept with a man was 1999. So you can call me whatever the fuck you want to call me. Really? That's where I'm at. And I know a lot of people think they know me, but come on. We are not so, we are complex beings. We come with layers. So what happened was the black lesbian was getting strong. Lesbians were getting strong. Women who loved women who were lesbians, we had seats in academia. We were creating our own institutions. We had our own presses. We had our own clubs. We had our own businesses. We had our own motherfucking shit. Who in this United States of America wants the black woman to come together economically, spiritually, politically, education? Who other than ourselves, our allies, and our people want that for us? Okay? And some of us for ourselves, which is, oh my God, we can talk about that shit. Okay? So to say, it is a powerful thing to say, I like, love, and center my blackness, my femaleness, my womanness, and that's my woman. And it is a powerful, powerful thing to just be other. Everyone who does other is doing something freaky that's gonna fuck some people up. And so I wish we would know that. So I'm gonna fuck what you do, but why you give so much of a fuck of what I do? That's what really frightens me about our community. I've been deplatformed, demonized, had things done to me that I never thought would happen to me. Simply because I love being African. I love black pussy. You ain't gonna get me capitulate my love for women. I don't give a fuck. I am an ancient ancestor female warrior who has died to preserve this right. And I've gone to jail in this life to preserve that right. And, you know, mm. So, yeah, that character assassination is simply about the external oppression as well as the internalized homophobia. I never hear people say things like, these days, I've internalized the homophobia. I've internalized the sexism. I've internalized this motherfucking life that they add. Well, how do you internalize that? Well, if someone's telling you all goddamn day you don't exist, your black skin, your black pussy, your black mind, and you have no spiritual foundation, you have no community, you have no reinforcements to solidify your belief in yourself, the character assassinations started happening. Because back in my day, we have worked so hard, black lesbians. You know, bitch would roll up and talk about, hey, you black ladies over there, don't you know you're gathering here as an affront to people? Oh, you got your shit cut then. I've been at conferences where motherfuckers pull some sexist shit. I've been at the LA conference with some of the most famous black people you know in their careers right now. And Nick Rose said some sexist shit in the workshop and what? LA, girl, straight up. Okay? Niggas in the room, lesbians.
Yes, Lynn. She channeling, all right. Come back. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Lynn, look at me saying.
Thank you.
You and Lynn is talking at the same. Pippa and Lynn is talking at the same time.
They are.
I feel Lynn. I'm not doing this with y'all.
I get my
Lynn.
I'm gonna burn some sage.
Lynn, go. I hear you. Go back. Hold on.
I told you you'd have to rein me in.
No, I know, Taylor. What was that second?
Oh yeah. Well, the
What was the second
question's on a different route. So for I learned about Black lesbian history. I was first introduced to it through the internet, specifically through like Tumblr, which isn't the most credible source. And usually when I hear people mention, you know, the icons or influences of Black lesbian history, it's Audre Lorde, Audre Lorde, Audre Lorde. So for the younger generation, whom else would you say is important to know?
Oh my God. Oh Lord Jesus. Barbara Smith, Audre Lorde, Angela Davis, Pat Parker, Gwen Avery, Gloria Anzalduza, Alice Walker. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put together a list.
Yeah, that's a great
Lynn
idea.
Keller, Deborah Wilson. I mean, there's so many of us that, you mean from that era? Marion Barry. I mean, there's just, the list is, I'm going to do that for you. Put together.
Yes.
Um,
I asked
Pat
this
Parker.
question because this is a recording, so there might be people of all ages who have never heard of these names before. So
I said Barbara Smith, the Combahee River Collective of Women. I think
the Nia Collective too, y'all.
Yep, the Nia Collective. Oh my God, I feel you can. There was Ashe Magazine. There was Onyx Magazine. There was this magazine called Blackout. I have another time. I have piles of shit that I just have, but the woman from Catch One, I can't even think of her name. There's my brain. She's an incredible humanitarian. The Club. There's a documentary out about her, about the catch and her story.
You talking about Jules Catch One?
Yes.
Yeah, the catch used to be cracking. If you have not seen Jules Catch One, in California, definitely go look at that documentary. I actually saw that documentary when I was in Chicago. Amazing. Yeah. And I think Jewel ran that thing. I think it just closed down.
It just closed. 24, I feel like it just closed.
Yeah, it just closed. So it was going for a while as well. So yeah, Jewel's Catch was another one too.
And then the host of other Black women. There was the other threat. What do you do when you want to break up the party with people? You create division amongst them. One of the greatest last bastions of anything is homophobia. You can be sitting in a room full of Black folks, kikiing down, BLM down, look at them motherfuckers in the White House, and bitches we on, and then tell them you're a lesbian, a gay man, queer, trans, tell them whatever, and then watch the face. And watch the Negro step in and watch the homophobia. We still have some huge stuff. So we dealt with.
I say that to say, we say this to say, what do you think that we, as not only just BLA, but everybody who's going to be watching this and just to the community at large, can take from the Ashe Project? What can we take, especially at a time like this right now? What is one gem or a couple gems that you can leave us with before we kind of wrap it up? And if anybody else has questions, we'll definitely leave it open for questions. But what is something that you want us to take moving forward into this portal, this 111 portal as we record this? You feel me?
Mm-hmm. Come together physically, smell each other, share your stories, be with each other, have the means of production, create a media force, produce your own media, your own literature. Technology is so easy now and disseminated. You must have the ability to sustain yourself. And what is that? Land. I highly advise people to get land, control your products, make your products, control your products, create the things that we did. What if you can't go to the clinic because you couldn't afford that? Well, there's women in our community that are gynecologists and nurse practitioners. Angela Davis used to host clinics, pussy clinics at her house where you could go look at your pussy at Angela Davis' house. I've been there. Okay, so we literally had things. We didn't have necessarily those things. So what do we do? Not do them? Since when is a Black woman not done for herself? So the means of production. Okay, we need to support each other. We need to feed each other. Stop being so stingy with your resources. We used to literally, I remember we sitting around one joint between 10. Your house was full of people. What do you have to offer? Find out who you are. What do you have to offer? And set a fucking goal and make the goal. There's no excuse now for, we don't have the technology. We don't have the, you have everything that you need. And I'm going to tell you something that's what breaks every party up is our shitty personal relationships. Our fucking shitty personal relationships, the Black woman's inability, particularly for us to break apart. I really want us to do that work that Audrey spoke about, that was very scary work for Black women of her generation, to just bring up those issues that Audrey brought up in Eye to Eye. Was a big thing for 80. She's the same age as my mom if she were alive. The cloak, she was that Black woman who demystified the secrets that Black women had. It is time for us to demystify all the secrets. It is time for us to love each other, to create a home. If someone's hungry, are you going to fucking feed them, or are you going to film them being hungry? Are you going to fucking provide the housing, or are you just going to, hey, we did that back in the day. We did that for each other. Lynn Keller and I've been homeless. I mean, we have it. We must sustain ourselves. What's our economy? Pick 3 projects. Okay, we're going to make a film this year. We're going to write a book this year, and we're going to do this year. And by 2022, we're going to have that land. On that land, we want a little clinic. We want a meditation center. That's what I'm doing. That's my plan. All the projects I work in must have an outcome. You must know who you're working with. You must tell the truth. You must find out who the fuck you're fucking with, because people get infiltrated. Okay, I trust and believe. You must have a code of ethics and relating and a way to deal with conflict. You must and you must be willing to gather in circle. You must be willing to fight through your differences. You must be willing to love each other through your differences. You must be willing to um, create safe haven for each other. Where if I come to you and say, I got kicked out of my house, or so and so beat me today, do you have the space to take someone in and to do that? This is what we're facing. And we need to recreate those institutions that we didn't have, those cafes, those spaces women could come and think and heal, get medicine. Um, we need those things. As you can see what's going on the planet, because Bob, we must have our own. To me, farming, land is critical. And there's no excuse anymore for Black people. Somebody knows someone, particularly in this set. You're the educate, y'all know you're put here for a reason, because I don't want it to fall apart again over personal shit, or because some bitch took the fucking money from the account from Ashe, embezzlement. So let's be honest about what can happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But does anybody have any questions, comments, anything like that? I feel the ancestors working through you, Pippa. I definitely feel you channeling right
I
now.
want you to hand out my number to everyone. I
Okay.
want you to know that I'm just the next in line of many of us. You're next. I'm so pleased to see you. You just don't even know. I will be here till the day I die. I am accessible to you. I literally kind of went ahead already and wrote the executive director of the LGBT Center and said, I'm working with some young, intelligent, beautiful people. And can we create maybe a funding source so that we can travel with our archives? And maybe they might want to let a group write some grants so that we can get some money to bring some life to that. So I kind of already went ahead and
Thank you. No, for
kind
real.
of put
Thank
that
you.
bee in the bonnet. We
No, we
must
will
not be
actually
afraid.
talk about. We was talking about actually creating. I think Alexandra brought it up, or somebody brought it up, but actually creating a network where we can actually travel and stuff like that to each other. And then we're also talking about actually having conferences and meetups and stuff like that too. So no, we honestly really appreciate that. Definitely.
One more thing. Recreation is the invisible fiber that binds people together. We have to exercise, socialize, play. I'm a child. I just bought me a motorcycle. Just play, live. We are Africans. Look to just enjoy your life as the collapse is happening, because it's on. Stay focused, support each other. Be willing to show your ugly face. Be willing to say, I fucked up. Be willing to expose your vulnerability, because that's what we're told as Black women that we should not do, nor should we rest, nor should we have fun. We have to wipe everybody's asses and know ours is the last ass we wipe. Okay? Well, it's time to center ourselves and create the safe haven to do it. I want you to know I'm here till May. My house is open. I literally have a dance studio. I, um, I have no problem sharing my resources. We must share our resources. Quit being so goddamn individualistic and stingy.
I appreciate that,
It'll be you
Pippa.
one day. It'll be you one day.
Oh yeah. I know.
Go ahead and be stingy with somebody.
Trust. No, I appreciate you, Pippa. I appreciate, everything that you've done, everything that y'all have done, everything that you currently doing. Like, honestly, it's been a blessing. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to share?
I don't
Anything?
have I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say, as an elder, thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom with us and what you've learned. I think this is the stories and just passing it down that sometimes gets lost in this oracle piece of our history and our tradition is very important. So thank you for that.
If I might have the opportunity for, if you want to tell me something, what do you want? What do you want me to know as an elder? What do you want me to do? What do you need from me? And who are you? What I can't even imagine what it's like loving women in this time. So if you want to just share a few minutes of that, to me, that is the greater privilege hearing from you.
I have something. So you don't seem to have this problem, which is great. But I've definitely met some older lesbians who acquiesce to whatever younger lesbians or just queer people are doing at this time. And sometimes I find that unfortunate because we would like to hear about the things that you know that we have yet to learn. And I think sometimes this is just my opinion. It's not even an opinion of BLA, but it feels like the LGBT plus community is very young these days. It feels
Mm,
very young. And
mm,
sometimes that youth in itself can be chaotic.
mm.
And so sometimes I'm like, it'd be nice if some elders or, mature people would come in and you've all been through this, So I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate you speaking, as Krista said, but definitely encourage others to do the same.
Well said.
Can also add it's similar when you're talking about growing up in white neighborhoods. I grew up in Hawaii and kind of came into my blackness and then my queerness and lesbianness later, and trying to reconcile that has been a lot. But to hear that someone's gone through that and has made it out, I think is a huge inspiration. And something that we talk a lot about here is that a lot of, and Taylor just mentioned, lesbian community can feel really disparate, where it feels like everyone's some sort of either like across the country or another generation. And so to know that there's a time where it was together and that it can happen again, like a younger me wouldn't have jumped at that. So it really, really is life changing when you talk about all this, know that it's possible. So thank you so much for everything.
I'm sorry, baby. Repeat. That's, sorry, sweetie. Go ahead. Say the last sentence you said, sweetie.
I was just saying to know that it's possible is genuinely life changing. So thank you so much. I mean, it really, it does, I can't express how much it means. So thank you.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Oh my God, you guys are killing me.
Pippa, really, we first met when you reached out after we dropped the publication, or actually, I don't know if it was the council or we was looking for the publication people for the team. And when you reached out to me and we had that first conversation, and just from then until now, like, you are just like a rock star. Like your energy is just so, like, when you're talking, I hear you talking, I see you talking. It's like you're just blazing this trail. Like you blazed it, and you just continue to have this fire and passion about not only what you've done but who you are. So I really do appreciate you bringing that fire. You know what I mean? I don't know if you got Oya energy, but it feels to me like
I'm
you
a child
definitely.
of Yemaya, and Allegra
Okay.
has my feet, but Oya likes to hang around me, so you pick that
Yeah, I
up.
can tell. Yeah, I can definitely tell. She's very,
Yes,
very
Oya
charged.
comes. When I
Very
get
charged.
possessed, Oya comes, yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. But I do appreciate you. And like Taylor said, and just like how we all definitely to continue to spread that to other, elders or our wise women, you know what I mean, to just be able to be just raw and open and vulnerable with sharing like their own personal truths, because it just kind of can sometimes feel like we're having like eggshell conversations, but really there's like a lot of things going on beneath the surface. But due to a lot of like cancel culture that we're moving through right now, sometimes it can feel like a lot of voices have been silenced. When really right now we do need the truth. And I'm not out here purposely, nobody's out here purposely trying to hurt feelings, but in order for us to continue to move forward, we need the truth. So I really do appreciate you for being open to share that truth with us. And I will definitely be passing Pippa's number to everybody. I'll actually put that in the email and stuff like that. And anything, Pippa's been always like, whatever, what do you need? You know what I mean?
If you come to California, if you the Bay Area, like I said, I got 2 bathrooms, dance studio. One more thing, and then we'll have, obviously, I want what we didn't get. If you realize Audre Lorde, if she were alive, would be 89. That generation of black women were just starting to talk about lesbianism. So many of those women were married, had children, did that life. Okay, so the conversation about intimacy as women is still a brand new conversation. Those women were, so what I really want to encourage is, okay, it's great once, what about, speak about how you make love, what you like, your body, sex, intimacy, deal with issues around intimacy, talk about the love. I feel like we're so busy fucking identifying in this, but what's beautiful about loving a woman? There's something quite unique about cozying up. Okay? All right. So there's some beauty to that. And so I come from, we were like the Nubians around talking about sex and is it okay to, so take it further. And I think that is what's happening with y'all. And I really want y'all to push that envelope of identity. I think because we don't speak often, we don't know where we're at and what's going on. I will share you one quick story. It's 5:30. Okay. I went to the DMV and to get my motorcycle license, and it says female on the thing, and handed it to this black woman. And she, I guess, was going over my paperwork, and she kept referring to me as a he, which happens all the time. I don't mind looking, I don't mind, that happens. I kind of know what I look like. But I stepped and I said, pardon me, I'm not a he, I'm a she. This sister crooked her neck, looked to the other woman, and was like I said, she didn't acknowledge, she didn't. And so that's my life, okay? And what was painful about this black woman is she then began to mistreat me for misgendering me, because she was uncomfortable with the fact that, oh, now I might be standing in front of a pussy-eating lesbian. And what happens when all this gender shit starts going and bitches get out? Okay, so we all deal with these types of shit in one way or another, and it's time for us to carve out the space so we can share our stories. We all got them, and make the safe space when you come together, whether it's just females, males, trans, whatever the fuck it is that you're calling, whether it's your allies, your separate spaces. Take the time to make that space spiritually safe, physically safe, and have some goodies to eat. I'm not going to say no more.
No, you're good. Thank you so much for coming through. I'm definitely going to give you a call sometime this week, because I
Don't
definitely
be shy.
I
Don't
want
be
some
shy.
medicine by you. Y'all definitely take that time out. Definitely take that time out when y'all can. And I know this is like recorded interview and stuff like that, but just, you know what I mean, establish. Because that's the one thing also too, and I promise it's going to be it. Archiving is not just about just getting information. It's about establishing relationships. It's very psychological. So this is going to be like the first lesson, you know what I mean, among many lessons of actually creating that history, her story, whatever you want to call it, is establishing and building relationships. So I really do. I know, so everybody might not be there, but take the time out to talk. You know what I mean? Talk amongst yourselves, talk amongst, Pippa, anybody else that we come in contact with, because it's going to open that eye up. You feel me? But other than that, anybody else, anything before we kind of wrap this thing on up? Y'all good? Everybody good? Thank you so much, Pippa, for coming through. And I just want to make sure, y'all make sure y'all come through, because this is going to be dropping a little bit before the exhibit. So make sure y'all come through to the exhibit February 20th through March 28th.
So proud
our
of you.
RNA projects.
So
Yes,
proud of you.
how we are building bridges within and outside our community. So we will definitely be seeing Pippa again. This is not the last time we will be seeing Pippa, but I just want to thank you so much. I'm showing my love all the way from ATL. You feel me?
So
And
Callie,
we'll talk soon.
thank you all so much. Have a good rest of the week.
All
And
right, you
stay
too.
safe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because bitches is crazy out there.
All right, y'all. A mess. All right, Brianna, if you're still there, you can go ahead and conclude the recording. Thank you so much. I'm weak. Yeah, and then we'll just go ahead and take that. We can maybe just edit that first part out when we were waiting, and then we'll go ahead and post it. I'm thinking probably we'll talk about it for our next meeting, but I'm thinking like having that as the beginning before we actually lead into the actual exhibit. But Brianna, you there? I know you was busy. And thank you, Taylor, too. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you for introducing us to this woman. She
Yeah.
somebody you want
I
on
told
your
you the
team.
energy. It's
You
energy,
want her
yo.
on your team.
She like a hurricane. That's why when she said, I know Yemaya with the waters and all that, but that hurricane way out energy, she just like boom, 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 like you know what I mean? Like her energy. Brianna, could you call? Because I don't know if can you call Brianna and ask?
Yeah, I'm gonna close my screen and call her.
Okay.
Just so I'm off the recording.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Brianna? Oh, okay. Ooh-wee.